So Satire, car maker meeting. No exaggeration. All of the below did actually happen in car makers. So first project manager. Regarding our compressed natural gas CNG cars, can we just spend $1 more per piece to make our gas cylinder safe? The highest manager, no, let these green maniacs blow up. Then there are less election votes to stop the production of combustion engines. Besides, we own politics and media anyway, and they're all ignorant anyway. Otherwise, they would have to do some work for their money, right? So nobody will be informed or even care. What if somehow, for example, through the EU, they'll try to forbid combustion engines? Then we'll bribe some of the assholes who call themselves liberals, but are actually mostly just liberal to receiving bribes. They are more or less part of most governments, and they'll get us an exception for e-fuels. They will never be affordable, but they'll open the possibility for selling those evil-sounding combustion engines and for evil doing in terms of always keeping it easy to run them with cheap, old-fashioned super gasoline from our corrupt friends, the sheikhs. The main reason we've not pushed electric vehicle tech forward for the last 100 years, even though it was always there and always with higher energy and environmental efficiency and fewer moving parts that could break. It just didn't pay bribes and doesn't produce as many garage visits to force people to pay our repair experts 4 times more than we pay top external IT innovation experts. EVs must be driven for more than 100K miles until they break even with classical cars in terms of nature. Due to the many resources needed for these batteries and the dirty mining around that in every respect, if you know what I mean. So for nature, EVs have only a very small effect. However, they have a big effect on draining the pockets of those eco-freaks. So they won't finance other stupid things with that money, like their own regenerative energy production or exerting political pressure. And of course, for us, these EVs cash out big in the billions, and even more with those hefty government subsidies. And that in spite of the car maker jobs having gone down to roughly a quarter over the last 25 years in Europe. Can you imagine how many bribes we paid for being able to argue with jobs for getting subsidies that we then eliminated? And the media not picking that up. By the way, we're not just artificially inflating garage visits now with our latest shitty electronics generation. We're also doing that with the insecure Keyless Go that allows quick digital stealing of cars with the easy manipulation of odometers to be able to sell more used cars touted as garage cars. And our bribes to not pressure Eastern European and Asian countries to no longer support the order theft of our cars and their import into these countries. These are all multi-billion factors. And of course, we're using billions of European research funding and foreign investment default insurances to continuously export not cars, but jobs from Europe into third world countries where we produce them under slavery-like conditions. The European politicians are so corrupt that they don't even mind ruining the basis of their now fast vanishing prosperity. Shouldn't we test a local startup with a few €1,000 that we know can easily inspect, has fair hourly rates, great work ethics, and is transparent and fair? No, they are just jerks, and they don't have big references. Of course, also because we don't give them a chance. Should we instead pay billions for possibly stolen autonomous vehicle software to people who worked for Google, are spoiled and used to earning well, but might not be able to improve upon the assets they probably stole? Yes, they are further away and thus offer the intransparency that allows us to get high bribes and to position our retarded friends in these companies. And of course, they need additional rights which take months to assign to them. They'll always have an excuse to not work. We pay contractors well. We could make the rights setup process efficient. No, then the above would not work, of course. When we ramp up our electronic vehicle EV production, can we also keep and improve our compressed natural gas CNG production? No, the main component of CNG, methane, is 84 times more dangerous to climate than CO2 over 20 years. And we don't want to invest to avoid leaks at all, not even $1 per car. We can't keep the media silent on this much longer, in spite of the billions we're paying. Some journalists sometimes at least skim over research papers. Then it's better to dump this technology altogether with the support infrastructure. Let these green weirdos experiment with hydrogen or some other explosive gases. And it's of course better for our sales if they have to buy new cars because they don't find a way to get them repaired. Maybe we'll get rid of some of these freaks in this way. Now, should we add some diversity? Sure, let's add some nigger that will snip away in our video. Let's see if anyone in our poor retarded target group will even notice that. I like it to give some more or less subtle hints about our real intentions. Then we can always later confront other people how naive they were to not have seen these hints. That works especially well with politicians and judges. I speak from experience. Which name shall we use for our autonomous vehicle AV venture? Let's use Carry-At. That reminds me of Carrie-Anne in those horror movies, you know. Then we can carry the evil from the motor noise and manipulation one step further in the direction of head-up controls and mind control. Moreover, looking at Google, from which much of the software is said to come, also for us carrying ads might be a bigger market than carrying people. Our diesel fraud came to light. We've done even more to hide it or bribe it away, but failed. Yeah, then let's build in our flux compensator for 50 cents. And I don't mean the wrapper. And for much more, we'll buy a thermal window from our politician friends. That will allow us to not oblige with the regulations under most temperatures. We'll just do that under current politically hot temperatures. But why didn't we build in that flux compensator before? And will the public even believe us that a so simple solution can be as significant as we claim and we didn't implement it before? Well, we own politics and media so completely that we can tell them any lie and they will spread it. And of course, adding a flux compensator would have reduced our profits just a bit, but for so many million cars, that could cut into our prostitution budget delicately. And for some motors, it might actually burn less fuel. And none of our bigger shareholders of the oil shale category would like that, of course. Yeah. The work council representative has to leave. The manager. Oh, I still have to answer some questions, but I will join in a few minutes. Reserve that red-haired whore for me. Let nobody touch her. Tell her she'll be in for an evil ride. For that, I don't even need one of our evil-looking cars. My evil mentality is sufficient. I have a risk appetite as big as my sex appetite. Maybe we should even give those prostitutes wristbands like those ergo insurance guys who do that to reserve the gold category for the top, in this case, just for me. That would be a real practical innovation for a change. What about hiring real experts to really innovate instead? Oh, that is too boring bribery-wise and gives nerds too much power. Let's instead pay corrupt lawyers to make things excruciate, but our bribes reverberate. That gives me a final great idea. We could stop all our autonomous vehicle AV research activities silently. That might cause the complete irrelevance of this company within 10 years, of course. But hey, it would give us, due to saved costs, several years with additional billion-dollar profits and correspondingly high bonuses. But wouldn't we then lose complete understanding of not only the AV tech, but also of our own software code if we fire these people? What makes you think that this is our code? Just as a diesel engine manipulation code's functionality, at least finally, was understood by court-appointed experts who finally were properly paid, maybe that's the only way for our autonomous driving efforts too. We'll find some culprit we can sue or some idiot that sues us. Then the software documentation can be funded through that legal process, and then by experts who don't need to work 4 times below market rates and understand the subject. Meanwhile, we could put some of those saved billions into media and admission authority managers, if you know what I mean, to stir interest in these AV cars and approve them. That will then only reach around 50 miles in speed maximum, just enough to maybe be driven in the slipstream of a truck. Maybe we'll sponsor some sexy ads at the back of those to make such driving more interesting. We'll give the media people a bonus if we find more than 250K idiots who are willing to pay more than $250K for such a relatively useful car, called 250K squared. That number also stands for the aspiration of our bonuses. Of course, with some empty promises to update it later to a full-fledged autopilot. Once people find out, we'll all be in different corporations and be driving with our fat bonuses better cars than those of this corporation. Life can be so great if you don't give a shit about other people.